Hey everyone, Chris Lambert with Film Colossus here, narrative experts. We got my rank for Fresh here. I gave it 3 stars out of 5. It's a good movie. Like, it's very smart. It's taking a familiar genre and subject matter and adding some clever twists along the way. It's actually reminds me a lot of Get Out in both just the plot development. Like, you have a couple that's going off on a trip where one is taking the other outside of the city to this distant place and isolating them, and it turns out they're actually part of a group of people that wants to do something horrible. In Get Out, it's these white people that want to take over the bodies of black people, getting into the thematics of cultural appropriation. And in Fresh, it's people that want to eat the meat of women, and it gets into this defamiliarization of the ego and arrogance and possession that a lot of men have towards women, and kind of exploring that thematic space through this horror concept. So it's very smart, but in terms of scope and scale, you can really see the difference if you watch Get Out versus Fresh. It's just Get Out feels a little larger and it has a little more gravitas to it, while Fresh feels a lot more like an indie film that has some limitations in terms of budgets and settings. So it's doing a lot with what it has. It just feels a little small and doesn't quite have a lot of the big moments that you'd maybe hope for, but it has a lot of fun, clever moments. So it's one of those movies that I think can really resonate, and it hits on a core topic that is going to be very relevant for a lot of people, and maybe holds up a mirror to a lot of people. There are some guys that probably need to see this movie and be like, huh, and maybe rethink the way in which they go about their lives. But for the most part, don't be a Chad. There's a Chad in this movie, and you don't want to be anything like the Chad in this movie. But it's a solid movie. It's solid. So in terms of rankings, I ended up putting it in the positives category, but it comes in at the bottom of the category, number 16 out of the 24 movies I've rated so far in 2022. I have it up below Hustle, just because I think Hustle is similar to Fresh in that it has some limitations to it. It's a fun movie, but it's ultimately a smaller, narrower concept, even though it has some of larger implications with the appearances of NBA players and the setting being the tryouts for the NBA or the NBA draft. So it feels bigger, but the actual story and what happens in the story is very small, kind of the way Fresh is. But this is more just, I liked the charm and positive energy that Hustle had. So when Hustle and Fresh are both similar, both kind of genre movies that have some smart choices, I'm giving a little bit of an edge here to some of the positivity of Hustle, because a lot of the movies on the list are very kind of dark and slightly morbid movies. Even when they do have some uplifting aspects, there's a lot of heaviness to them. So just having a decent movie that has some positive qualities and is just happy is nice. It's nice. So I gave Hustle the edge in this ranking, but it goes above the neutral category because I do think that there's not that many cons to Fresh, aside from it just being limited by the script, which isn't a bad thing. Some movies are just limited by budget and script, and it happens. So this is more just the lower ceiling rather than it having lows. Where Death on the Nile is a movie that had a huge budget, has a lot of stars, and had all of the potential to go large. I just don't think was making very smart or daring decisions. It's a movie that's playing it very safe in a lot of ways, and while there is intrigue to it, it ultimately was pretty boring. So Fresh is definitely above that, right? Same thing with Thor: Love and Thunder, Chip and Dale. Chip and Dale is another similarly ceilinged movie, but I just think Fresh was a little fresher. So that's where it goes, number 16. That's it for now. Until next time, see ya. Cheers.